the things that are happening and the things that we're investing in are measured in decades. They're not measured in years.
Ooh, I love that.
So the things that the infrastructure, the people, the types of projects that they're looking to expand or grow here in Maryland, those types of projects will be measured in decades and not years. So I think that's a very high, that sentence alone is very impactful.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Diligent Leader. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Alex Ficcari, and I have with me here
Kaylee Jakovics.
Yes, and we're excited today because we're bringing another great leader to you that is going to share some of their industry insights, and that is Sarah Horta, who is the Director of Innovation and Strategic Partnerships for the Maryland Economic Development Corporation,
Mouthful, yeah.
MEDCO.
Yes.
So
stick with MEDCO.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to really be here, and Kaylee, thank you for having me and inviting me. I'm very excited to talk about my role at MEDCO, where it kind of has led me and kind of the exciting things that we're looking to accomplish.
Yeah. We're super excited to have you here today, and it's been a pleasure knowing you over the last, 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
It's been a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm the outsider here. So
It's been nice to see you shift into your new role. It's coming up on 2 years, so we're excited to hear about that as well.
Busy. Yeah.
Tell us about you first. Where are you from?
What do you like to do for fun?
So I'm not from Maryland. I'm from Delaware, the Eastern Shore.
okay.
So I grew up in Fenwick Island. So I went to school in Dagsboro, Millsboro. My mom still lives there. I worked at Fisher's Popcorn through high school. There's a big Bayside community I worked through there. So it was interesting growing up at the beach. It's a beach town, but also it's a huge farm town. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different. It's a little bit of a bubble. And of course, the no sales tax. So when I came, I was recruited to play soccer at UMBC. So coming over to Maryland, I had never had Chick-fil-A. I had never had Chipotle.
Whoa.
I was like, what's the big, it's just like a chicken sandwich.
Right.
And then I would go, my first time at Arundel Mills Mall, it was my first, what's sales tax? What's this? It's
like
$1.99. Why is it $2.14 or something? It was a very weird culture shock, but you're just jumping over kind of state lines.
Right.
Yeah.
So I played soccer at UMBC for 4 years, and I actually was looking to go into the legal field and become a lawyer.
Okay.
But my soccer coach at the time, he was like, well, why don't you try, he was the head of the Department of Homeland Security for the state of Delaware. He's like, well, come and intern under me for 2 years. I'm doing some cloud computing stuff, looking at all the public high schools in the state of Delaware. Want to get them under the same system just for reliability issues. So I did that for 2 years. I was like, I think I want to get into cyber. I was like, I think I want to get technical. So I went back after 4 years of undergraduate. I went back to UMBC and finished my master's in cybersecurity, which was an amazing program. And I learned a lot. There was a lot of older men and women coming from the GI Bill that were going back to school and retrain, which I learned a lot from them. It's just, I think it was, listening was a big part of my graduate degree. Because I really didn't know as much as they did, and they were in the field or they were coming and retraining and kind of customizing to the field. So I did a lot of listening, which was, great in hindsight.
Right. How you learn, right?
Yeah. And I still like to play soccer.
Okay.
Well, I don't play anymore. Soccer. Oh, yeah. Big Arsenal fan. I run now half marathons. I won't go through a marathon because my body would break. But I learned very quickly. My husband, he tore his Achilles 8 months before our wedding. We were playing a co-ed soccer team. So I run and I try and do the best I can on the golf course.
Okay.
And then we have a 3-year-old son, Jackson.
Oh, that's great.
So he is 3. It's fun.
Yeah.
Is it solid 3?
He's turning 3 on the 14th in August, but he's already exhibiting 3-year-old tendencies.
Gotcha.
So it's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. We saved many times.
He's fine. He was like, everyone, too. I'm like, 2's nothing. 3 is the 3-nager is very real, but he's just, it's interesting and so exciting to see him experience all the things for the first time from his standpoint.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
So I got to say this, totally off the cuff, but there's this TikTok I saw that it has a mother holding the child and showing the child new experiences inside a dryer, on the top of a shelf, like giving him different vantage points all over the place. And I always think, children are just like these amazing sponges. I mean, but they'll run you ragged.
I took him to, because he loves airplanes, so I took him to the park where you see the airplanes come in. The BWI.
Yep.
He could stay there 8 hours a day. 8 hours a day. And just be like, look, the plane is yellow. Or like the Southwest plane, it's a blue plane. Like you're going to see a lot of Southwest planes.
Yeah.
That's how my nephew is. He loves trains, though, being from Indiana.
Any automobile that goes fast.
So tell us. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Yeah. Well,
so tell us how you made your way to MEDCO. Like, what happened there?
So it's such an exciting change for me. It'll be 2 years in October. I've known Tom Sadowski, the executive director, for like 10 years. Back when I was in grad school, I got my first internship at DBED. Now it's Department of Commerce, but before it was DBED. And he was the EAGB, and I've just known him throughout the years. And then previously, before MEDCO, I was at the Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation for about 5 years. Okay. And that was a really great experience because that EDC, as opposed to the business development people, divided by geography, where east, west, north, south. I think Baltimore County has that outline, where one day you can meet a restaurant, the next day you can meet a government contractor, the next day you can meet a telecommunications company or a hotel. I solely focused on tech and cyber because of my background.
That's great.
So companies that are working with or alongside Fort Meade or those installations on that base, trying to get their first contract, trying to grow from, or their first prime contract, still trying to hire.
Yeah.
Sure, everyone knows the workforce issues that are going on throughout different sectors, not just tech. So we had a tech fund, a 0% interest fund, up to $250,000 to help contractors get their first contract. Obviously, you don't get paid by the federal government customer 90 to 120 days. They still need to grow,
of course,
get into space, hire. We were able to provide that kind of mezzanine type funding to those small companies. Because when you look at angel investors or everything else in the state, I mean, they want to find products.
Sure.
But the services-based industry is a huge economic driver in the state of Maryland because they're the ones that are hiring the people out of college. You know, there's a clearance issue that's obviously happening. It's expanded since years ago. But they create such a huge economic impact for the state of Maryland and that industry as a whole. So it's not just a butts and seats kind of conversation anymore. They're really advocating for and impacting the greater national security awareness of the United States.
Yeah.
So I'm very passionate about the space.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
No.
So I love the space. It's forever changing. The things that are coming out of that space. I heard a quote today, and I'll use it. You know, the things that are happening and the things that we're investing in are measured in decades. They're not measured in years.
Ooh, I love that.
So the things that the infrastructure, the people, the types of projects that they're looking to expand or grow here in Maryland, those types of projects will be measured in decades and not years. So I think that's that sentence alone is very impactful.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for those of the viewers that may not be familiar with MEDCO, can you just give them a little overview of kind of what programs and initiatives, what you guys are doing? Sure.
So MEDCO, the Maryland Economic Development Corporation, we were born in 1984. There's an old manufacturing facility in like Western Maryland, and people were leaving. The company that had that manufacturing facility was leaving for 100 people were leaving the state. And the state was like, hey, we need an entity to acquire the facility, redevelop it, or refurbish it for future use.
Okay.
So thus was born MEDCO. We have the ability to acquire, refurbish large infrastructure type developments. And then later on, we were giving bond financing powers on our non-recourse basis. So that means any bonds, MEDCO issued bonds, they don't. The state or MEDCO isn't on the hook to pay them back.
Right.
They're all revenue bonds, so there has to be a revenue type of source to repay the bonds. And then at the end of the end user of the building, if they're a nonprofit, government entity, certain transit-oriented development agency, we can issue bonds at a tax-exempt basis.
Yeah.
So all the development, all the construction, labor is all tax-free, which saves the project money. And coming into MEDCO, I really had to do some homework on, the bonding industry.
Yeah.
And how I always, if you've seen the movie Captain America, he has that pitch during the movie where he's war bonds.
Yep.
So the U.S. Government used to have war bonds, and you could buy like a $25 war bond for like $18, and obviously that goes to the U.S. federal government to pay for tanks or artillery to fund war. And then another thing that I saw was that they had Liberty bonds. So the government would actually pay you back the bonds that you issued and then an interest. And that's how kind of the debt started. Because at the end of, I think, the Great Depression, I think the government was like in debt, like $25 million, which we see today, obviously.
Yeah.
So, and the difference between kind of a bond and a stock. The difference between a bond and a stock is, the stock is an equity instrument where you obviously take ownership of a company. Like if you buy stock in Google, a bond is a debt instrument, and it's a promise to pay you back plus interest. So that's what MEDCO does. We're the conduit to which a bond or other types of money can flow through to help a project.
Excellent.
So hopefully that gives.
No, that's fantastic.
It's a very intricate. It's very nuanced work. We, through our bond issuance, we have done a lot with the system of Maryland. We own over 11,000 beds for student housing.
Really? Wow.
So we issue the bonds to the system of Maryland, and then we help develop or refurbish student housing. So we have done Walker Apartments at UMBC.
Wow.
We've done projects at Frostburg, College Park. We're doing a lot with Morgan State University. So it's pretty, like I said, measured in decades.
Sure. So how many organizations, businesses does MEDCO serve today? Like, and I'm even more curious about your role in serving that.
Sure. So businesses, I don't know, because we have different kind of colors and flavors for all the different projects that we have. But we have done a project in every single county in the state of Maryland.
Okay.
So
Excellent.
I can say that.
Wow. Okay.
I think this year will mark the first time that we will do over $1 billion in conduit bond financing, which is huge for us.
Yeah. And that does so much for the economy.
Absolutely.
Massive change.
And one of the things that we're looking, actually, we had a talk on Monday. So there's student housing, and then we've solidified our role with the university system in that, and it's been amazing. And the partnership with the system and the different jurisdictions has been great. But a new kind of offshoot is graduate housing. So when you graduate from college, you shouldn't be able to. Graduates shouldn't have to pay market rent if they're still honing their craft, and they're ultimately going to stay and contribute to the economic vitality of the state.
Oh, interesting.
So we're getting into some graduate housing discussions with universities because we want to keep that talent here.
Sure. So you're incentivizing them, just like sometimes doctors, right? They can stay there. They I would assume contract to say they'll stay in the area for a certain period of time.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And you've seen this when Amazon did their HQ too. I think when they're building in Virginia, they're building housing for their employees.
Yeah.
And I don't know what kind of structure that is, but I think it's so smart because if you want to commit to a location in Maryland and you want to commit to the workforce and help grow the workforce, then you have to have some place for them to live.
And it's hard coming right out of school.
It is. And the housing market right now is insane. Like
they might choose to go work in Pennsylvania instead.
Yeah.
So I think
we're competing against other states in the country, and we're not. I mean, us in California, we're not the housing market, especially. We're not so different anymore. Right. I mean, when you're looking at places like Texas or Pennsylvania, Austin is like super cool, and that's a whole other level of, what other amenities or how you get to work. Is there a local train station?
Yeah.
Is there a commuter bus? So those are other types of multimodal conversations that are happening across the state to make this a place for them to be.
Yeah.
So I'm curious from a, I mean, this is all fantastic, but I'm curious as to, there is obviously your role, innovation, strategic partnership, right? So from creating that vision or knowing where to go, I would assume the boards are involved and everybody's contributing.
Yep.
But, where are you guys seeing, like, how are you forecasting where to put your energy? Is it?
And it started, I think, when Tom hired me. He was meeting with Brian Crosby, who's a congressman or a delegate down in Southern Maryland. And obviously Southern Maryland, when you have Pax River and Indian Head down there, there's really deep filled contractors that need to do the work.
Sure.
And they need to fill the seats to do the work, to contribute to the greater mission.
Yeah.
And Tom's like, hey, MEDCO, I've been working with Delegate Crosby, and we received $2.5 million in the form of a state capital grant to allocate and help build SCIF space, sensitive compartment information facility, for different programs down there. Are you interested in heading that up? And it was the right time.
Good.
I believed in kind of the mission and the different objectives that Tom and the board and the MEDCO team, I think we were just finishing up and wrapping up a strategic plan.
Okay.
So I read through that and I said, I think I could really make a difference.
Yeah.
So the first $2.5 million allotment was split down the middle between two projects, one in Charles County right outside Indian Head and one in St. Mary's County at the local aero park there.
Okay.
Great projects, amazing economic development metrics that came out of it. I think for every dollar that was invested in those assets, it was additional. I think we saw $7 or $8, and $1 million was given to 1.25.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then from that, Crosby went back and got another $2.5 million. So $5 million in total. We're looking by the end of the year to help facilitate 5 different projects in Southern Maryland. And Tom and I and others were looking now at expanding that project statewide.
Yeah.
I would love to do that. I mean, that's something that I'm super excited about. I think it makes sense.
Sure.
Working with the state and different contractors. I mean, we obviously know the landscape in Fort Meade and what's going on around there. And it's a need. And I think with the different advocates that we have in that space, there's no reason why we can't look at for the state to do something of that research, because there's so many things in that space. We can't solve the clearance issue,
right?
Without help from leadership in the federal level.
Yeah.
So I think allocating resources to building of this type of infrastructure is a lane, I think, that fits the state MEDCO very well.
So it sounds like, if I'm taking back what you're saying, and please correct me, but in order to, from your leadership's perspective, in order for the economy to scale, it's really about creating those initiatives for the businesses to be out there, and then also simultaneously, you're also helping the next generation and with workforce development in its strictest sense to be here, help develop, and then creating the vehicles for them to kind of go through.
Yeah, and the SCIF project actually, or the program, it won a MEDA award this past MEDA conference.
Right.
And something that I was able to communicate to the leadership across Maryland is, if a contractor wins an award, a prime contract, and they do not have the space for their employees to do that work, that program will go elsewhere.
Yeah. Do you think
it will leave the state.
Do you think that's the biggest challenge most of these small businesses or medium-sized businesses are even trying to, when it comes to getting these contract awards and doing it? Is it the housing and the funding? Is it that what you see across the board?
I think it's all encompassing. I think a lot of times with the program and the SCIF, it's a lot of the chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
You need to have the space to win the contract, or you need to have the contract first, or the program first to have the space.
Yeah.
A lot of times we see these small companies utilize their prime space. So X company who has a subcontract with Northrop Grumman, with Peraton, with Raytheon, with Boeing, they're able to utilize, but Boeing also needs that space.
Sure.
So I think it ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
I mean, with the government spending and the DoD spending and the defense budget, I mean, but through, if we're able to see the uptick that has been allocated to the defense budget over the past 5 years, it's only going up. And that's along with all the interactions and things that we're seeing overseas and all the things that we're in the United States is involved with our allies and everything. So it's not going anywhere, that space.
Yeah. How does your team prioritize, I guess, what needs to be done and when it gets done?
Yeah, that's a great, how do you guide that?
So I think...
Or any new opportunities for innovation.
We're growing our advisory. So Katie Parks and I were part of the advisory services consulting piece, where it's not like we're growing the pie. We're not cutting more pieces because we're diversifying our resources. Because we can do so much. Because for so long we were, I'm not going to say pigeonholed, but we've been such a big advocate for the USM and educational and academic resources to grow those types of projects, where we're now saying, okay, well, the state has, or Commerce has these types of projects on deck. Where can MEDCO not insert ourselves, but how can we help where we haven't been asked to the table in the past?
Sure.
And that's where, Tom hiring me comes in, Katie Parks, who facilitates and leads our MDOT transit-oriented development, work that it's infrastructure.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's a top priority within the state to grow that type of infrastructure, whether that be for the security space or the commuter space. So I think it's just with kind of prioritizing projects. Tom has had a great vision of growing the team to make sure that we have enough support to meet all those different types of inquiries that are coming in. And the board loves it. I mean, they see it too. MEDCO has so much potential to do so much more.
Yeah, let me ask you a question specifically about that.
Sure.
So you see Tom, and Tom and the board are collaborating and they have this vision, and talk to me for a moment about your part right now, trying to help get that mission going in the direction, right? So, and I'm assuming you believe in it. It's wonderful. And it's everything. But how do you, keep that connection going and to the teams you interact with?
I think it's hard because we've done A, B, and C. We know how to do A, B, and C, like the student housing, for so long that going to the board with a new project, it's a hard sell because we've never done that before. Okay, so this is why we should do it, because it's equitable, it's good for the state, it brings in economic development, it brings in good economic numbers for the state of Maryland, and it grows what Maryland already does. Or you look at the big industry sectors in Maryland. It's cyber, it's biotech, it's pharmaceutical, it's aerospace. So I think even though we're not that's a really good thing to point out. We're not the state of Maryland. We're a 501c4. We're a quasi-state agency. We do not receive any allocations from the state during session. So Tom likes to say we eat what we kill. We charge interest or admin fees on all of our projects. That's how we get paid.
Right.
Yeah.
So it allows us to work in a more agile fashion, a little bit more quickly. Which I think is a great case or a great thing for us to work with our different jurisdictional partners, where their procurement office doesn't have the bandwidth, but they have a project that's in their master plan that they want to do due diligence on. How can they do that in a very swift manner that pleases their commissioners and their constituents? They can bring in MEDCO. Great. And we can do work on behalf of them. We can write RFPs, issue RFPs, do the whole process of getting that initial work done and utilize those local dollars. And more importantly, making sure that work is getting done with local vendors. We're doing work right now in St. Mary's County where we're looking at about 14 acres on the west end of the regional aero park there. And the county knows that there is a list of companies that want more hangar space.
Yeah.
But they haven't been able to do anything. So we're coming in, clearing the land, building a new public road.
Yeah. Okay.
And building more hangars, or helping the county build more hangars to accommodate for that influx of need.
Okay.
Which is really cool.
Now, do you have a lot of like partnerships and vendors as well? And if so, like how can one get involved or really understand the resources that you offer?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk to anyone. I think for our process, when we look at doing a project, we heavily lean on MDOT's vendor list.
Okay.
So they have, MBEs, woman-owned, minority-owned companies, and obviously we have to check SSTAT to make sure they're in good standing with the state. Yep. But I mean, what's really nice is we look at the zip codes for the projects that we're in, and we work with the local jurisdiction to say, okay, if you have a set aside for, I don't know, women-owned companies, if the county has a set aside for any set asides, do you want us to accommodate for that, or does the county or the project leader have a vision in mind for the type of vendors that they want engaged in this? Okay. So we're very fluid with kind of what we can do.
So, to kind of, look at those, what you were talking about, I mean, there's challenges you have to overcome, right? And do you think today, the organization you are right now, and you and Tom are, putting together there, you are set up for success moving forward? Or do you think it's going to continually evolve? Like, I'm kind of curious as the evolution of your organization. Are you ready for this growth, or do you need more, do you have more infrastructure?
That's such a good question. I think right now what we're experiencing is growing pains. Okay. Which is great. Yeah. Because it's a hurdle and we'll overcome it.
It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. And I think the one project that has cemented the opportunity and the growing pains is cannabis.
Oh, sure.
So absolutely, coming in with my cyber background, doing very DoD-centric work, MEDCO is named in the cannabis reform bill.
Oh, okay.
So I do SCIF, DoD, and cannabis as a part of my Rolodex. Yeah. Wow. So Tom came to me early on and said, I think the Maryland Cannabis Administration would like our help in identifying possible developments or buildings that can be refurbished or redeveloped for a cannabis incubator. Yeah. So innovation, equitable, new sector in Maryland did $1 billion the first year that it was
and that's a hard,
legalized.
That's a very hard industry to make, because you have the big corporations that have come in there, and the licensing is expensive as can be. Yes. And so it's not really small business friendly whatsoever.
So that's where the incubator comes in,
which I love. Yeah.
Which is, and it's going through this process with MCA and going to the board saying like, hey, we're doing the cannabis incubator. We're not owning it because of our bond federal regulations. MEDCO does not and will not own a building. But we can certainly redevelop it because that's our strong suit. So the incubators, they are for micro licensees in the processing, growing, dispensary, storage space. Yeah. So there are some restrictions in terms of how much you can grow, how much you can process. So it's a really cool program that we're the only state to do what we've been doing in terms of how we want to grow the industry.
Which has new challenges.
Yeah.
You're just out there navigating the water.
It's hilarious because when I first was on this project, I was doing my research on canopy and all the definitions that had to go in with the cannabis industry, and half of the websites that I was visiting were getting flagged by our computer system, by the firewall. So I had to go into our IT director. Hey, can you let me? I'm not buying anything. I'm just doing research, so I know what I'm kind of talking about. Sure. But it's that partnership has been amazing with the Maryland Cannabis Administration, and that's a new partnership.
It's a new,
It's new.
They're brand new. They're
and that's something. And that's something that we're looking at a site right now. We filed a report to the governor and the General Assembly December of last year, and that's just the first site. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
it's not growing. It's only going to grow again because I think MCA, Andrew Garrison is our contact there. He's amazing. He said, $1 billion the first year. It'll be over $1 billion in the second year.
Sure.
So it's certainly not going anywhere. And it's a great way for people who are interested in the industry. If you're growing at home, you want to build a business, an LLC, you want to do research around it, you want to get integrated to the different kinds of academic programs that they have
Sure.
there, just to how to build a business, because there's the cannabis side and the science and chemistry
Yep,
behind
absolutely.
it, but there's also the business acumen
business
side
side.
Right.
Doesn't
of
change.
how do you file for an LLC?
Yeah.
Why does everyone do it in Delaware? It seems to be. So
Right.
that's a huge industry. I think it really underlines the growth of MEDCO and the future of MEDCO to be involved in conversations where the state might not know. This is new for the state. This is new for MCA, for commerce, but we're all figuring it out together.
But it sounds, if I'm taking this right, you have so much experience helping businesses get started, building infrastructures, that just pivoting a little bit to bring cannabis in as a different variable into the equation.
Yeah.
I think it does make sense that MEDCO's there and creating these opportunities, because again, like, people will leave, businesses will leave.
And you're being
Yeah.
the innovative ones, kind of like taking the reins.
Yeah.
Like I said, navigating those waters.
Yeah,
So-
Tom and our office likes to say that MEDCO has long been in the conversation when things go wrong. When a project
Okay,
goes
sure.
wrong, they're like, "Oh, let's bring in MEDCO to help figure it
Oh,
out."
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's quite the
Yes, I love
reputation
that.
in a very positive
Yeah,
way.
and so we're trying to be in the conversations earlier to
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
not have things go wrong. But we've been in some really great positions of helping local jurisdictions. If you're familiar with the Hillman Garage in Annapolis, so we helped develop that,
Oh, you
put green
did?
space up. Yeah, so we did that 9 months, 4 months.
Wow.
Very much less time than what the city of Annapolis was trying to do.
Yeah.
So, and it's a great garage now. I mean,
Yeah.
it was very much decaying,
Yes.
and you can park and you can have a QR code and
Yeah.
It's super easy.
It's
I
very
use it.
easy.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
I encourage you to use
Yeah,
it.
I use it all the time.
I
encourage you to use
I
it,
do.
yeah.
I go down to EO Alley, park down there. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sarah, I mean, knowing you throughout the community, anyone who knows you and the viewers that are watching, listening to kind of everything that you do, the strategy, the innovation that you bring, they can see that you're an effective leader. I know that as well because I know you personally. But I guess what kind of qualities do you think as a leader in your space that people need to have in economic development?
Yeah, great question.
I think able to pivot, because I see economic development as as the Olympics are on, a very long-winded singles tennis match.
Yeah.
The ball's always coming back.
I love all your analogies.
And they're I try not to do sports analogies as much as I can, but it's just like we're in it right now.
Just
Go
go with it.
USA!
Just go with
No,
it. Yeah.
so it's very much I think it's a tennis match. You have you hit the ball and you have a line of sight, and then it comes back to you, and it might not come back to you the way you want it to.
Right.
So easily being able to adapt to change, whether that be a different governor coming in or a different leader coming in, or you have a team and you have a partnership and they fall away. Being able to think on your feet is crucial, I think, in the world of economic development. And also, this was through learning through my dad, continuing education. I, received my master's in cyber, and then I wanted to get technical, and I was not technical. I was more of a policy. So I went back and did digital forensics at the community college.
Oh, wow, great.
And then now I'm studying for my PMP. So
I think that's really how you grow as a leader, is continuing that education.
yeah, and I didn't use my digital forensics, but I wanted to get it was just something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And now I'm on the construction, writing RFPs side of it.
Yeah, that's a
and-
fun side.
Which is a very fun side. It's something that I haven't done in the past, and I really like it. So I'm like, all right, well, I need to have an advocacy. I need to have that background in PMP and how to budget and how to effectively communicate our role in the whole lifeline, like a process development standpoint.
Yeah.
So that's something that I think continuous learning and challenging yourself, I think, is just something that's been hammered into me. My dad was in the Navy, so
was I.
Yes.
Thanks for that's awesome.
Yes.
Great.
So he was just, and that's something that's, I think it's learned as well. When you're in a position and you're just be curious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved what you said too about pivoting always, because whether you're in a leadership position or not, any position, there's always going to be change. You're always going to have to make those adjustments. And,
and it can't just be. And I think to kind of reaffirm what you're saying there about the pivoting, it can't just be a trendy keyword we say during COVID, right? To survive, right? I think there is businesses should plan change with innovation rather than evolving. And that's what I saw in COVID, right? Businesses would say, oh, we've evolved, we've pivoted. Yeah, but out of necessity. Where have you done anything out of initiative and innovation and proactiveness? And I think that's a leader should strive for that. It doesn't come naturally.
Yeah. When I was my first job, full-time job, I was the manager of the BW Tech Cybersecurity Incubator.
Okay, great.
So I work with a lot of small companies working in the DoD space. Some came from the DoD space and wanted to go commercial.
Yeah.
And a lot of hurdles or hiccups that happened was you would have a company that would constantly evolve to the customer instead of focusing on their core capabilities and just doing what they do best.
Yeah.
There's a whole lean startup model where you want customer intake, but you don't want your whole strategy evolving around pigeonholing yourself to a different type, a customer type.
Right.
Sure.
So I think having that mindset of a company honing their craft and what they know to do best, it's not filling the customer's need, because there's just so many companies out there that are...
You thinking what I'm thinking?
Yeah.
We had another podcast, and we were talking to somebody who said, their success has been on their ability to say no to the other things and stay razor sharp focused on their...
So I'm not crazy. No,
You're not crazy.
No.
No, I think... But that is it. But, generally speaking, we like, in yourself, you like challenges. You like learning, you like picking up new things. And so if you don't exercise that muscle of restraint and focus, you could be running all over the place. But, you have focused on things that further your advancement and what it can do as a whole, like a collective. You're a powerhouse of knowledge and experience now, because of these insights, but it's because you willingly take it on, and I love what you said, that the adaptive, pivotal.
Yeah. And it's okay to fail. I think when you first get into the job market as a young professional, you're just so scared to not know the answer, and it's okay to not know the answer.
Yeah.
And to have a mentor too.
To have a mentor, and the mentor, I'm sure they can come in any and all forms.
Yeah.
They can be your boss. You don't even have to be in the same industry as them.
Sure.
I remember my first, when I did a presentation in grad school. Phil, very smart people in the room. It was a train wreck. I was so uncomfortable. I was reading on the cards, and then the next time I got better. It was in a skiff in Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
And I got really good feedback. And I think communication and public speaking is such a crucial part of effectively communicating your worth, and also the strategy that you want to implement, from the people that you work with and your company, your MEDCO, because you're a salesman at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so when you meet with someone in the tech world, they can sniff it out.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that and it's okay to say, I don't know, but I will get back to you. I remember we were on one of the virtual meetings with the Boeing woman from Fort Meade Alliance, and I still remember her to this day. She said, "It's okay." Her mentor said to her, "It's okay if you don't know the answer, but say you will get back to them."
Yes.
Say received. I don't have the answer. Let me get back to you.
Yep.
I think the biggest challenge for me is being nervous about not knowing the answer. Really, that's the biggest thing that I'm always worried about, whether it's in a business development meeting, it's sales, I'm doing a presentation, it's oh, what if I can't answer that question, but I know it's okay. I know I say that exactly. Like, let me talk to the boss man and I'll get back to you. Or for, our CTO or all of this, So I understand what you're saying.
And I think, and I don't know if your perspective, and feel free to disagree, but when, nobody taught me anything. I went to school, I did, but everything that we do and say are today as an organization, or I've been a part of an organization, is I just had to go figure it out. And I'm going to fall flat on my face. My partner on the day side, so to speak, with Mojo, he says, fail fast. Get up and fail fast and go. And that's the truth of the matter. Nobody knows what's going on, and we don't do a great job of always teaching each other what we just learned. And we put that in a little silo, right? And we just kind of keep that. But the fact is, you shouldn't. I shouldn't say you shouldn't be scared. You're going to be scared. The fact is, you muster up the courage to kind of go through it with it anyway.
And I think being uncomfortable, honestly, is growth.
100%. I mean,
put yourself in those positions.
You pick yourself back up, dust yourself off, and you carry on. My dad rubbed some dirt on it.
There you go.
It's never the end of the world.
No,
it's never the end of the world.
Yeah.
So that's just something putting things in perspective.
Yeah.
Are there any challenging projects or experiences that I'm sure that you've overcame, and how you get through it?
The cannabis was a big one.
Okay.
Just conveying that to the board and other partners, and why MEDCO was present in those conversations when cannabis, that's such a new thing for Maryland. We do student housing. I'm involved in SCIF space. What's happening. I think that's been.
I can see that now.
No, it kind of
well.
it's not
it
really
very well. Yeah.
But I think the cannabis conversation as a whole, and advocating for the development and growth in that space, was difficult. I think.
Yeah, to see the idea, share the idea, and convince them.
Yeah, because if you don't believe in why we're at the table, then no one else is going to.
Agreed, 100%.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, we do development well. We do redevelopment great. Well, we do refurbishment. I mean, that's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
We have the connections. We have the contacts. We know what we're doing in that space. It just, it's not a different animal. It's a building. And then the end use is different. But it's innovation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately under my umbrella and our umbrella at MEDCO.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. So we have just a couple minutes left, and I just wanted to ask what advice would you give to leaders looking to drive innovation and build strategic partnerships in their organizations?
Yeah, whether they're selling skiffs or anything, like cannabis or you name it.
I would say be an advocate for yourself. And I have to give Tom and the rest of the leadership at MEDCO credit, because having a very nuanced mission requires a very flexible type of leader.
Ooh.
And bringing new ideas, the worst that they can say is no, but that's not crazy.
Yeah.
But maybe crazy is good. Maybe out of the box thinking is good. Take a chance. If you have a great idea, bring it to leadership with you've done research.
Sure.
And then let's table this, or let's put a pen in this, or let's pull that string. Let's talk about more. Be confident in yourself.
Sure.
And something that I has always stuck with me is never be the smartest person in the room. And intelligence is very subjective, I feel like, but always listen.
Yeah.
My dad being in the Navy, he had you can never learn anything with your mouth open, which I think is just a very much a Navy that, and on time is late. So I try and stick to those as well. But I think try to never be the smartest person in the room, because that just means you're always learning something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take 3 things away from every meeting that you're involved in yourself in, and try. I coach my brother now, talking about mentorship. He's 2 years younger than me. He's a very smart engineer working for a developer in the Eastern Shore. And he's a little bit more quiet than I am. But I said, go into every meeting, say one comment.
Yeah.
Put one thing out there.
Yeah.
Good.
Start with one.
Yeah.
And then you'll start to lead the conversation, and you'll be more confident in what you say, because you don't want to have other people notice that you're about to say something and then you stop yourself.
Yes, that's fantastic.
That
Yeah.
is all
Sarah, that's
amazing advice.
great advice.
I have chills.
No, Sarah, that's all great stuff, and I think for everybody who's, watching and they're if you're looking for these guidance, I mean, you've heard these things. We all hear these catchphrases, right? But I think at the end of the day, we all don't, if somebody says something and just kind of in one ear out the other.
Yeah.
So, here's proof, right? Here's proof right here,
Yeah.
right? That it's not all, just something somebody yells at us in passing. It really can make a big difference.
Yeah.
So.
And I love mentoring like Fort Meade Alliance or a lot. I talk a lot with adults that have children in sports
Oh,
or
yeah,
they're
sure.
looking in rec or they're transitioning to a club team or they're looking to go Division 1 or 3. So I've had a lot of conversations, expectations and expectation management and what does it mean if my daughter will go D1 or D3 or it's are you a student athlete or are you an athlete?
Yeah.
So that's I always like to coach parents with kids in sports as well because that's a wild ride,
I love
separate
that,
than
though.
your professional life.
Yeah.
Well, so Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. That was a fantastic overview, and we hope all of you who've been watching have enjoyed what you learned today. Some great information coming from another great leader out in the community. So thank you very much for joining. And Sarah, where can everybody learn about MEDCO if they have any more questions?
MEDCO-corp.com, and then if you scroll to the team members page, my email is right there. So feel free to reach out or call me.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes,
This
thank
is
you.
Kaylee and I saying, thanks for watching The Diligent Leader. Catch you in the next episode.